What if the key to a peaceful mind wasn't found in the chaos of modern life, but in the wisdom of the ancient world? For centuries, Stoic philosophers have taught that true tranquility comes not from controlling the world around us, but from mastering the thoughts and emotions within us. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's greatest Stoic thinkers, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." These words remind us that peace is not something we stumble upon, it's something we create, and one of the most powerful tools for building that inner calm is the practice of Stoic affirmations. These aren't just empty phrases or wishful thinking, they're rooted in timeless principles that help us navigate life's challenges with resilience, clarity, and purpose. In this video, we'll explore 50 Stoic affirmations designed to transform the way you think, feel, and respond to the world around you. Whether you're facing stress, uncertainty, or self-doubt, these affirmations will guide you toward a deeper sense of peace and empowerment. So, let's begin this journey together, because the mind you cultivate today will shape the life you live tomorrow. Your perception shapes your reality. This isn't just a philosophical idea, it's a principle that lies at the heart of Stoicism. The ancient Stoics believed that while we can't always control what happens to us, we can control how we interpret and respond to those events. As Epictetus famously said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them." In other words, it's not the event itself that disrupts our peace, it's the meaning we attach to it. Think about it this way: two people can experience the same situation, yet one feels overwhelmed while the other remains calm. What's the difference? Perception. For instance, imagine you're stuck in traffic. One person might see it as a waste of time, growing frustrated and anxious, but another might use the opportunity to listen to a favorite podcast or simply enjoy a moment of stillness. The event is the same, but the way each person perceives it creates a completely different experience. This is where Stoicism offers a powerful tool, the ability to reframe. Reframing doesn't mean ignoring reality or pretending everything is fine. It's about choosing to see challenges through a lens of growth rather than despair. When life throws obstacles your way, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can this moment serve me? By shifting your perspective, you take control of your inner world, even when the outer world feels chaotic. Take a moment to reflect on a recent challenge in your life. How did you perceive it? Did it feel like an insurmountable problem, or did you find a way to see it as an opportunity? The way you answer these questions reveals just how much power your perception holds. And that's the beauty of Stoicism. It reminds us that peace isn't something we find outside ourselves. It's something we cultivate within, one thought at a time. What can you truly control in life? This is a question Stoics have wrestled with for centuries, and it's one that can transform the way you approach challenges. The Stoic dichotomy of control is a cornerstone of their philosophy. It's about recognizing the difference between what's within your power and what isn't. As Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Think about that for a moment. How much of your stress, frustration, or anxiety comes from things you can't actually change? Take a common scenario like being stuck in traffic. You can't control the red lights, the accidents, or the slow-moving cars ahead of you. But what you can control is how you respond. Do you let the frustration boil over, or do you take a deep breath, play your favorite music, and use the time to reflect? The same principle applies to dealing with a difficult coworker. You can't force them to change their behavior, but you can choose how you react, whether with calm understanding or by setting clear boundaries. This is where the power of the Stoic mindset shines. By focusing on your internal responses, your thoughts, emotions, and actions, you reclaim a sense of agency, even in situations that feel overwhelming. So why not take a moment right now to pause and reflect? Make a mental list of the things you can control and those you can't. This simple exercise can help you shift your energy toward what truly matters, freeing you from the weight of what's beyond your influence. Remember, the goal isn't to ignore the external world, but to approach it with clarity and resilience. When you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you open yourself to a more peaceful, intentional way of living. And isn't that what we're all striving for? Resilience is built through adversity, and for the Stoics, this wasn't just a comforting idea. It was a foundational principle. They believed that challenges aren't obstacles to avoid or fear. They're opportunities to grow, to strengthen your character, and to deepen your understanding of yourself and the world. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's greatest voices, put it perfectly when he said, "The obstacle is the way." In other words, the very thing standing in your path is the path itself. It's not about waiting for the storm to pass, but learning how to dance in the rain. Think about someone like Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison before emerging to lead a nation. Instead of letting bitterness consume him, he used that time to cultivate patience, forgiveness, and an unshakable sense of purpose. His adversity didn't break him. It forged him into a leader who could inspire the world. Mandela's life is a powerful example of how resilience isn't just about enduring hardship, but transforming it into something meaningful. Now, take a moment to reflect on your own life. Can you think of a time when you faced a challenge that seemed insurmountable? Maybe it was a personal loss, a professional setback, or a moment when everything felt like it was falling apart. Look back and ask yourself, how did that experience change you? Did it teach you patience, courage, or perhaps a deeper sense of gratitude? The Stoics would argue that every hardship carries a lesson, and it's up to us to uncover it. By embracing challenges as teachers, we don't just survive them, we grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient because of them. What are you grateful for today? It's a simple question, but one that can shift your entire perspective if you take the time to answer it honestly. The Stoics believed that gratitude isn't just a fleeting emotion. It's a practice, a habit, and a powerful tool for cultivating contentment. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it beautifully when he said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." This idea reminds us that happiness isn't about chasing what we lack. It's about appreciating what's already here. Gratitude in the Stoic sense isn't just about saying thank you. It's about training your mind to focus on the abundance in your life, no matter how small or ordinary it may seem. When you wake up in the morning, do you notice the warmth of the sun, the sound of birds, or even the simple fact that you have another day to live? These are gifts, and acknowledging them can anchor you in the present moment, helping you find peace even in challenging times. One practical way to build this habit is by keeping a gratitude journal. Each day, write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be grand or extraordinary sometimes. It's the smallest things that carry the most meaning. Maybe it's a kind word from a friend, a moment of laughter, or even the comfort of your favorite chair. By focusing on these moments, you're training your mind to see the good in your life, no matter what's happening around you. So, take a moment right now. What are 3 things you're grateful for? They could be as simple as a warm cup of coffee or as profound as the love of someone close to you. Write them down, say them out loud, or just hold them in your thoughts. When you make gratitude a daily practice, you're not just counting your blessings. You're building a mindset of resilience, joy, and inner peace. And that's a gift you can give yourself every single day. The present moment is all we truly have. It's not a cliché, it's a profound truth that Stoicism has emphasized for centuries. The Stoics believed that the past is already gone, the future is uncertain, and the only thing within our control is the here and now. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's greatest Stoic thinkers, put it simply, confine yourself to the present. These words remind us that peace of mind comes from fully inhabiting the moment, rather than being distracted by what's already happened or what might happen next. Think about how often we divide our attention. Modern life encourages us to multitask, checking emails while eating lunch, scrolling through social media while watching a show, or planning tomorrow's to-do list while trying to enjoy today. But here's the irony: multitasking doesn't make us more productive or fulfilled. Instead, it fragments our focus, leaving us feeling scattered and disconnected. The Stoics would argue that by splitting our attention, we're missing out on the richness of the present. Here's a simple challenge for you. Pick one task today and give it your full, undivided attention. Whether it's washing the dishes, having a conversation, or taking a walk, resist the urge to let your mind wander. Notice the details: the warmth of the water, the sound of the other person's voice, the feel of the ground beneath your feet. This practice isn't just about productivity. It's about reclaiming your peace and reconnecting with the only moment that truly exists, the present one. By embracing this Stoic principle, you'll find that life becomes less about chasing what's next and more about appreciating what's already here. And in that appreciation, you might just discover a deeper sense of calm and clarity. Why do we tie our happiness to outcomes? It's a question that strikes at the heart of how we approach life. So often, we place our sense of worth and peace on external results. Whether we win or lose, succeed or fail, gain approval or face rejection. But Stoicism offers a powerful alternative: detachment from outcomes. The ancient Stoics taught that while we can control our actions, we cannot control the results. And when we let go of clinging to specific outcomes, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. Seneca once said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult." What he's pointing to here is the power of our mindset. When we fixate on the outcome, we often paralyze ourselves with fear or anxiety. But when we focus on what we can control, our effort, our attitude, our integrity, we reclaim our power. Think about a sports player stepping onto the field. If they're only focused on the final score, every missed shot or mistake can feel devastating. But if they shift their attention to giving their best effort in each moment, the game transforms. They play with more freedom, more creativity, and more joy. The outcome still matters, but it no longer defines their self-worth or happiness. This is the essence of Stoic detachment. It's not about not caring. It's about caring deeply but wisely. It's about recognizing that our value isn't tied to external results, but to the choices we make and the effort we put in. So, take a moment to reflect. Where in your life are you overly attached to outcomes? How might shifting your focus to what you can control bring you greater peace and resilience? The answers to these questions could be the first step toward a more stoic, more fulfilling way of living. Everything in life is temporary. That's not a pessimistic statement. It's a simple truth. The Stoics understood this deeply, and they saw impermanence not as something to fear, but as a fundamental part of existence. Change is woven into the fabric of life, and accepting it is one of the most liberating practices you can adopt. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it beautifully: "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." Think about that for a moment. What he's saying is that change isn't an obstacle, it's a celebration of life's natural rhythm. Consider the seasons. Every year, winter gives way to spring, and summer fades into autumn. The trees shed their leaves only to bloom again. The cycle is constant, yet we rarely resist it. Why? Because we recognize it as part of a greater, beautiful process. Life works the same way. Relationships shift, careers evolve, and even our own identities transform over time. These changes aren't failures, they're opportunities for growth. So, how do you handle transitions in your own life? Do you cling to what's familiar, or do you embrace the new? the Stoics would encourage you to see impermanence as a teacher. It reminds us to appreciate what we have now without attaching ourselves so tightly that we can't let go when the time comes. It's not about dismissing loss or pretending it doesn't hurt. It's about understanding that every ending carries the seed of a new beginning. Take a moment to reflect on this. What's one change in your life that initially felt difficult but ultimately led to something meaningful? Maybe it was a job you lost that pushed you toward a better opportunity, or a relationship that ended, freeing you to grow in ways you hadn't imagined. Change can be uncomfortable, but it's often where the magic happens. The Stoic practice of accepting impermanence isn't about resignation, it's about empowerment. When you stop fighting the natural flow of life, you open yourself to resilience, adaptability, and peace. After all, life's beauty often lies in its unpredictability. Just as the seasons remind us, every ending is a prelude to a fresh start. Adversity reveals your true strength. This isn't just a motivational phrase, it's a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics believed that challenges aren't obstacles meant to break us, they're opportunities to uncover our inner resilience and build our character. As Epictetus once said, difficulties show what men are. In other words, it's not about what happens to you, but how you respond that defines who you are. Take, for example, the life of Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most famous Stoic thinkers. As a Roman emperor, he faced invasions, plagues, and political turmoil. Yet, instead of crumbling under the weight of these struggles, he used them as a chance to practice Stoic principles. He wrote in his private journal, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." His ability to transform hardship into growth serves as a powerful reminder that adversity can be a teacher, not a tormentor. Now, think about your own life. Can you recall a moment when you faced a significant challenge? Maybe it was a personal loss, a professional setback, or even a period of self-doubt. What did that experience teach you about your own strength? The Stoics would argue that those moments of struggle are where you discover what you're truly made of. They're not just tests, they're invitations to rise, to adapt, and to grow. So the next time you find yourself in the midst of difficulty, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, how can I use this situation to build my character? How can I turn this obstacle into an opportunity? Remember, adversity isn't the end of the road. It's the beginning of a path to greater strength and wisdom. How disciplined are you in pursuing your goals? It's a question that might make you pause, and that's exactly the point. The Stoics believed that self-discipline isn't just about willpower. It's about aligning your actions with your values and taking control of your desires. As Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." In other words, true wealth isn't about having everything you want. It's about mastering the desire to want endlessly. Think about it. How often do we chase after things we don't truly need, only to feel empty once we get them? The Stoics teach us to focus on what's within our control, our choices, our efforts, and our mindset. Self-discipline, then, becomes a tool for freedom. It's not about depriving yourself, but about choosing what truly matters and letting go of distractions. Take a modern example. Imagine someone saving for a dream vacation. Instead of impulsively spending on small luxuries every week, they set aside a portion of their paycheck. It's not easy. It requires saying no to short-term pleasures, but the reward is a meaningful experience they'll cherish far longer than a fleeting indulgence. That's the power of delayed gratification, a cornerstone of Stoic discipline. Now, consider your own life. Where could you exercise a little more self-control? Maybe it's resisting the urge to scroll through social media when you could be working on a passion project. Or perhaps it's committing to a daily routine even when motivation is low. The key is to start small. Identify one area where you can practice discipline and let that be your foundation for growth. Remember, self-mastery isn't about perfection. It's about progress, one intentional step at a time. Anger is a temporary madness, a storm that clouds our judgment and pulls us away from the calm center of our being. The Stoics understood this deeply. They saw anger not as a force to be embraced, but as an obstacle to inner peace and clarity. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." What does this mean? It's a reminder that when someone wrongs us, the most powerful response isn't to retaliate or match their energy. Instead, it's to rise above, to remain steadfast in our own principles, and to refuse to let their actions dictate our state of mind. Think about it this way: when someone provokes you, they're often seeking a reaction. They want to see you lose control to mirror their chaos. But what if instead you chose to respond with calmness and composure? Picture a situation where someone cuts you off in traffic or speaks to you in a harsh tone. The immediate instinct might be to lash out, to let the anger take over. But what if, in that moment, you took a deep breath and reminded yourself that their behavior says more about them than it does about you? By choosing not to engage in the cycle of anger, you reclaim your power and protect your peace. The Stoics believed that anger is often a result of unmet expectations. We get angry when things don't go the way we think they should, when people don't act as we believe they ought to. But here's the truth: we can't control others, we can't control the world. What we can control is how we respond. By letting go of the expectation that everything will align with our desires, we free ourselves from the grip of anger. Instead of seeing a provocation as something that demands a reaction, we can choose to see it as an opportunity to practice patience, understanding, and self-mastery. So, the next time you feel that surge of anger rising within you, pause. Ask yourself, is this worth my peace? Is this worth the energy I'm about to expend? By taking that moment to reflect, you create space for a more thoughtful, deliberate response, one that aligns with the person you aspire to be. Anger doesn't have to define you. You have the power to let it go, to rise above, and to find your way back to calm. What can you let go of today to find peace? This question lies at the heart of Stoic teachings on simplicity and minimalism. The Stoics believed that true wealth isn't measured by what we own, but by what we can live without. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." These words remind us that our desires, not our circumstances, often create our struggles. When we chase after more possessions, more status, more distractions, we clutter not just our physical spaces but our minds as well. Think about the last time you decluttered a drawer or a room. Remember that sense of relief when you removed what you didn't need. Imagine applying that same principle to your thoughts and habits. What mental clutter are you holding on to? Worry, resentment, or the need to control everything? Simplifying isn't just about physical possessions. It's about creating space for what truly matters. Take a moment to reflect. What's one thing you can let go of right now? Maybe it's an old grudge that no longer serves you, or a habit that drains your energy. By choosing to simplify, even in small ways, you're taking a step toward a more peaceful, intentional life. And remember, this isn't about deprivation. It's about making room for clarity, focus, and the things that bring you genuine joy. So, what will you choose to release today? Virtue is the highest good. This is the cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. For the Stoics, living a virtuous life isn't just a goal, it's the very essence of a meaningful existence. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's greatest voices, put it powerfully: waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one. It's a call to action, a reminder that virtue isn't something we debate. It's something we embody through our choices, even when those choices are difficult. Think about a moment in your own life when doing the right thing wasn't the easiest path. Maybe it was standing up for someone when it wasn't popular, or staying honest in a situation where deceit might have brought short-term gain. These are the moments that define us. Stoicism teaches that true strength lies in aligning our actions with virtues like courage, wisdom, justice, and self-discipline, no matter how challenging the circumstances. Take, for example, a leader faced with a tough decision that could impact their team. Choosing integrity over convenience, even when it means personal sacrifice, is a testament to living virtuously. It's not about being perfect. It's about striving to act with purpose and principle, even when it's uncomfortable. So, here's a question to reflect on. What virtues guide your decisions? Are there areas in your life where you could align more closely with the values you admire? Virtue isn't about grand gestures. It's found in the small, consistent choices we make every day. And when we commit to living this way, we not only find peace within ourselves, we also inspire others to do the same. How can you show more compassion today? It's a question worth reflecting on, especially when we consider how small acts of kindness can ripple out and make a profound difference, not just for others, but for ourselves. Stoicism, often misunderstood as cold or detached, actually has a deep thread of empathy and compassion woven into its teachings. The Stoics believed that true strength lies not in indifference, but in understanding and connecting with others. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." This is a call to align your actions with your values, to live with intention, and to recognize the humanity in everyone you meet. Compassion isn't just about grand gestures. It's about the quiet, everyday moments where you choose to see someone else's struggle and offer a hand. Think about a time when someone helped you, no matter how small the act. Maybe it was a stranger holding the door open when your hands were full, or a friend who simply listened when you needed to vent. Those moments stick with us because they remind us that we're not alone. Now, imagine being that person for someone else. It could be as simple as offering a genuine compliment, checking in on a coworker who seems stressed, or even just smiling at someone who looks like they're having a tough day. These small acts of kindness don't just brighten someone else's day, they also reinforce our own sense of purpose and connection. So, here's a challenge for you today: perform one act of kindness. It doesn't have to be earth-shattering. It could be sending a thoughtful text, volunteering your time, or even just being fully present with someone when they're speaking. When you extend compassion, you're not just helping others, you're also practicing the Stoic ideal of living in harmony with the world around you. And in doing so, you'll find that peace of mind often follows. Criticism is an opportunity for growth, a chance to see ourselves more clearly and refine who we are. Stoicism teaches us to approach feedback, whether positive or negative, with a calm and open mind. The Stoics believed that external opinions, even when harsh, are not within our control. What we can control is how we respond to them. As Seneca once said, "The wise man is neither raised up by prosperity nor cast down by adversity." This means that our worth and inner peace should remain steady, regardless of praise or criticism. When we detach our self-worth from others' opinions, we free ourselves to learn and grow without fear or defensiveness. Think about a time when someone offered you constructive criticism. Maybe it was a friend pointing out a blind spot or a colleague suggesting a better way to handle a task. At first, it might have stung a little, but if you took a step back, considered their words, and asked yourself, "Is there truth here that I can learn from?" That's Stoic wisdom in action. It's not about agreeing with every critique, but about sifting through it to find the lessons that help us improve. So, how do you typically respond to criticism? Do you feel a rush of defensiveness, or are you able to pause and reflect? The next time someone offers you feedback, try this. Take a deep breath, remind yourself that their words don't define you, and ask, what can I take from this to become better? When we approach criticism with curiosity rather than fear, we transform it into a powerful tool for personal growth. How strong is your mind under pressure? It's easy to feel steady when life is calm, but true strength is revealed in the storm. Stoicism teaches us that mental fortitude isn't something we're born with. It's something we build moment by moment through deliberate practice. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." These words remind us that while we can't always control what happens to us, we can control how we respond. And that's where true resilience lies. Think about a crisis you faced. Maybe it was a sudden setback at work, a personal conflict, or even a moment of overwhelming stress. In those moments, did you react with clarity and calm, or did emotions take the wheel? Stoics believed that by training our minds to focus on what's within our control, we can face even the most chaotic situations with a sense of inner peace. One powerful practice is to pause before reacting. Instead of letting emotions dictate your actions, take a breath and ask yourself, what can I actually do about this right now? This simple shift in perspective can help you respond with intention rather than impulse. Let's look at an example. Imagine you're in a high-pressure meeting and a colleague criticizes your work in front of everyone. Your first instinct might be to defend yourself or lash out. But what if instead you took a moment to detach from the emotion and see the situation objectively? You might realize that the criticism, while uncomfortable, isn't a reflection of your worth. It's just feedback. By focusing on what you can learn from the experience, you transform a potentially damaging moment into an opportunity for growth. So, where in your life can you practice building mental fortitude? Is there a situation that feels overwhelming or out of your control? Start small. The next time you feel stressed or anxious, remind yourself of Marcus Aurelius's wisdom. Your power lies in how you choose to respond. Over time, these small acts of mental discipline will compound, helping you face life's challenges with greater calm and confidence. Mental fortitude isn't about never feeling fear or doubt. It's about learning to move forward despite them. And that's a skill anyone can develop one moment at a time. Humility is the foundation of wisdom. It's a quiet strength, a recognition that no matter how much we know or achieve, there's always more to learn. Stoic philosophy places immense value on humility, teaching us that true self-awareness begins when we acknowledge our limitations. As Epictetus once said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." This simple yet profound idea reminds us that growth starts with the willingness to admit we don't have all the answers. Think about the last time you made a mistake. Did you brush it off, or did you take a moment to reflect on what went wrong? For many of us, admitting errors can feel uncomfortable, even embarrassing. But the Stoics saw it differently. They believed that acknowledging our mistakes is a sign of strength, not weakness. It's an opportunity to grow, to refine our character, and to align ourselves more closely with the virtues we aspire to embody. Take the example of a leader who admits they mishandled a situation. By owning up to their error, they not only earn the respect of their team, but also create an environment where others feel safe to do the same. Humility fosters trust, connection, and collective growth. It's not about diminishing yourself. It's about recognizing that you're part of something larger, a world filled with knowledge, perspectives, and experiences beyond your own. So, how can you practice humility in your daily life? Start by observing moments when you feel defensive or resistant to feedback. Notice when pride might be clouding your judgment. Reflect on the idea that every person you meet has something to teach you, even if it's a lesson in patience or understanding. Humility isn't about thinking less of yourself. It's about thinking of yourself less often. And in doing so, you open the door to deeper wisdom, richer relationships, and a more peaceful mind. What small joys do you overlook daily? In our pursuit of grand achievements and life-changing experiences, it's easy to miss the quiet, everyday moments that hold a profound kind of joy. Stoicism teaches us that happiness isn't found in the extraordinary, but in the ordinary, in the simple act of being present and fully appreciating what's already here. Seneca once wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." These words remind us that joy isn't something we need to chase. It's something we can choose to notice right here, right now. Take something as simple as your morning coffee. That first sip, the warmth of the cup in your hands, the quiet stillness before the day begins. These are moments ripe with potential for joy. Yet, how often do we rush through them, distracted by thoughts of what's next? Stoicism invites us to slow down, to savor these ordinary experiences, and to see them not as mundane, but as opportunities for gratitude and contentment. Think about your own life. What's one routine activity you often take for granted? Maybe it's the sound of birds chirping during your morning walk, the feeling of sunlight on your face, or even the satisfaction of completing a small task. These moments, when noticed and appreciated, can become anchors of peace in a chaotic world. Today, challenge yourself to identify one ordinary moment you can savor. Let it be a reminder that joy isn't always loud or dramatic. It's often quiet, simple, and waiting for you to notice. Fear is a product of the mind. It doesn't exist outside of us. It's something we create, often by imagining the worst possible outcomes or giving power to things we can't control. The Stoics understood this deeply. They believed that fear, like any other emotion, could be tamed through reason and perspective. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." In other words, it's not the situation that causes fear, but how we choose to interpret it. Think about it this way. Imagine standing at the edge of a high diving board, looking down at the water below. Your heart races, your palms sweat, and your mind floods with thoughts of what could go wrong. But is it the height itself that's terrifying, or is it your mind's reaction to it? The Stoics would argue that the fear isn't in the jump, it's in how you've decided to view the jump. By reframing your thoughts, you can take back control. Let's take this a step further. Consider someone who's afraid of public speaking. They might avoid it at all costs, believing the fear is too overwhelming to face. But what if they took a stoic approach? They could break it down. What's the worst that could happen? Maybe they stumble over their words or forget a line. And then what? The world keeps turning. By confronting the fear head-on, they begin to see it for what it truly is. A mental hurdle, not an insurmountable wall. Now, think about a fear you've been carrying. What's one thing you've been avoiding because it feels too big or too scary? What if, instead of letting that fear dictate your actions, you chose to face it with reason and clarity? The Stoics remind us that fear loses its power the moment we decide to meet it with courage. It's not about eliminating fear entirely. It's about refusing to let it control you. So, what's one small step you could take today to confront that fear? It doesn't have to be monumental. Even the smallest act of courage can shift your perspective and remind you that you're stronger than you think. How patient are you with yourself and others? It's a simple question, but one that often reveals how much of our energy is spent resisting the natural pace of life. Stoicism teaches us that patience isn't just a nice-to-have quality. It's a core virtue essential for cultivating inner peace and resilience. As Epictetus once said, "No great thing is created suddenly." Think about that for a moment. Every meaningful achievement, every lasting relationship, every skill we master, they all require time, effort, and, above all, patience. The Stoics understood that impatience often stems from our desire to control outcomes. We want things to happen on our timeline, and when they don't, frustration sets in. But here's the truth: much of life is outside our control. What we can control is how we respond to delays, setbacks, and even the slow progress of our own growth. Patience, then, becomes an act of acceptance, a way to align ourselves with the rhythms of the world rather than fighting against them. Consider this example. Imagine planting a tree. You water it, give it sunlight, and care for it, but no matter how much you want it to grow faster, it will only grow at its own pace. The same is true for so many areas of life, whether it's building a career, healing from a loss, or developing a new habit. The rewards often come slowly, but they're worth the wait. So here's a challenge for you. Think of one area in your life where you could practice more patience. Maybe it's with a project at work, a relationship that's taking time to improve, or even with yourself as you work toward a personal goal. Remember, patience isn't about passively waiting. It's about actively trusting the process, even when it feels uncomfortable. By embracing this mindset, you'll find not only greater peace, but also a deeper appreciation for the journey itself. Change is the only constant in life, and yet it's one of the hardest things for many of us to accept. The Stoics understood this deeply. They saw change not as something to fear, but as an inevitable part of existence, a force to work with, not against. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's greatest thinkers, put it this way: the universe is change, our life is what our thoughts make it. In other words, life itself is a series of transitions, and our ability to adapt to those shifts determines our peace of mind. Think about it. Every season changes, every relationship evolves, and even our own bodies and minds transform over time. The Stoics remind us that resisting these changes only leads to frustration and suffering. Instead, they teach us to embrace impermanence. When we stop clinging to how things should be and start accepting them as they are, we find freedom. Take, for example, someone who loses a job they've held for years. At first, it might feel like the ground has been pulled out from under them. But with a Stoic mindset, they can reframe this as an opportunity, a chance to explore new paths, grow in unexpected ways, and even discover strengths they didn't know they had. History is full of stories like this, where people turned what seemed like an ending into a new beginning. So, how do you handle change? When life throws you a curveball, do you resist or do you adapt? Take a moment to reflect on a recent transition in your life. Did you approach it with fear or with curiosity and openness? The Stoics would say that the way you think about change shapes your experience of it. By embracing life's uncertainties, you can find peace even in the midst of chaos. What does true contentment look like to you? Is it having more, achieving more, or perhaps something much simpler? The Stoics believed that contentment isn't found in external possessions or accomplishments, but rather in cultivating an inner sense of peace and satisfaction. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, "He is richest who is content with the least." This idea challenges us to rethink what we truly need to feel fulfilled. It's not about accumulating wealth or chasing endless desires. It's about finding joy in what we already have and embracing a life of simplicity. Think about someone you know or have heard of who lives with very little yet radiates happiness. Maybe it's a neighbor who spends their days gardening, finding joy in the simple act of nurturing life. Or perhaps it's a traveler who carries only a backpack, finding freedom in the absence of material burdens. These examples remind us that contentment isn't tied to what we own, but to how we perceive and appreciate our circumstances. So, what truly makes you content? Is it the moments spent with loved ones, the quiet mornings with a cup of coffee, or the satisfaction of creating something meaningful? Take a moment to reflect on this. The Stoics teach us that when we shift our focus from what we lack to what we already possess, we unlock a deeper, more enduring sense of fulfillment. True contentment, then, becomes not something to chase, but something to cultivate within ourselves, moment by moment. Regret keeps you stuck in the past, clinging to moments you can't change, and weighing you down with what-ifs and if-onlys. But Stoicism offers a different way to approach these feelings, one that doesn't ignore the past but refuses to let it control the present. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the very things that seem to hold us back can become the tools we use to move forward. Regret, when viewed through this lens, isn't a burden, it's a lesson waiting to be learned. Think about a time when you made a decision that didn't turn out the way you hoped. Maybe it was a missed opportunity, a harsh word spoken in anger, or a path not taken. Instead of replaying that moment in your mind, ask yourself, what can this teach me? How can I use this experience to grow? For example, imagine someone who regrets not pursuing a dream earlier in life. That regret, painful as it may feel, can become a catalyst for action, a reminder to start now rather than wait for the perfect moment. Here's a challenge for you. Take a moment to identify one regret you've been holding on to. It doesn't have to be something monumental. Even small regrets can weigh heavily on your mind. Now, instead of dwelling on it, reframe it as a lesson. What did it teach you about yourself, your values, or your priorities? By doing this, you're not erasing the past. You're transforming it into something useful. You're taking what stands in the way and making it the way forward. This isn't about dismissing your feelings or pretending mistakes don't matter. It's about acknowledging them, learning from them, and then letting them go. Because the truth is, you can't rewrite the past, but you can shape the future starting with the choices you make today. So, what's one regret you're ready to release? What step can you take right now to turn that regret into a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block? It's not always easy, but with a Stoic mindset, even the heaviest regrets can lighten their grip, giving you the freedom to move forward with clarity and purpose. Who do you need to forgive today? It's a question that can feel heavy, but it's one worth asking ourselves. Stoicism teaches us that forgiveness isn't about excusing someone else's actions. It's about freeing ourselves from the weight of resentment. As Epictetus once said, "Forgive others for your own sake." Think about that for a moment. Forgiveness isn't about the other person, it's about reclaiming your peace of mind. When we hold on to anger or bitterness, we're the ones who suffer. We carry that burden and it chips away at our ability to live fully in the present. Take a moment to reflect on someone in your life, maybe a friend, a family member, or even yourself, who you've been holding a grudge against. What would it feel like to let that go? Stoicism reminds us that we can't control what others do, but we can control how we respond. Forgiveness is a choice, a deliberate act of releasing the past so we can move forward with clarity and calm. It doesn't mean forgetting or pretending the hurt didn't happen. It means choosing to no longer let that hurt define your present or your future. Here's a practical way to start. Write down the name of someone you want to forgive. Then, write one sentence about what you're releasing, whether it's anger, disappointment, or regret. Acknowledge the pain, but also acknowledge that you're choosing to rise above it. This simple act of reflection can be incredibly powerful, a first step toward reclaiming your peace. Forgiveness isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. When we forgive, we're not just freeing others, we're freeing ourselves. Inner peace is a choice, a powerful truth that Stoicism teaches us. While the world around us may feel chaotic and unpredictable, tranquility comes not from external circumstances, but from how we choose to respond to them. The Stoics believed that true peace begins with self-awareness, the ability to observe our thoughts and emotions without being ruled by them. Seneca once said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay," reminding us that pausing before reacting creates space for clarity and calm. Imagine standing in a crowded room, voices rising, tensions flaring, yet you remain steady, anchored in your understanding that these external events don't define your inner state. This is the essence of Stoic tranquility. It's not about suppressing emotions, but about mastering them, choosing to respond with intention rather than impulse. Take a moment to reflect. What practice helps you find peace when life feels overwhelming? Is it a quiet walk in nature, a few minutes of deep breathing, or simply pausing to remind yourself of what you can and cannot control? The beauty of Stoicism lies in its practicality. It's not a distant ideal, but a way of living that anyone can embrace, one small choice at a time. By cultivating self-awareness and committing to practices that ground you, you build a foundation of inner peace that no storm can shake. What can you accept today that you've been resisting? This question lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy, which teaches us that peace of mind begins with embracing reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. The Stoics remind us that resistance to what we cannot change only amplifies our suffering. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's greatest Stoic thinkers, put it this way: accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart. These words are a powerful call to stop fighting against the inevitable and instead find strength in acceptance. Think about a time when you struggled against a situation you couldn't control. Maybe it was a job loss, a relationship ending, or an unexpected setback. At first, denial or frustration might have taken over, but what happened when you finally accepted it? Often, there's a sense of relief, a weight lifted off your shoulders. That's the power of acceptance. It doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're choosing to stop wasting energy on what you can't change. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you're stuck in traffic, running late for an important meeting. You could let frustration build, honking the horn and stressing over every second lost. Or you could accept that the traffic is beyond your control and use the time to breathe deeply, listen to a podcast, or reflect on your day. The situation hasn't changed, but your response to it has. That shift in perspective is what Stoicism is all about. Reflect for a moment. What's one thing in your life right now that you've been resisting? Is it a difficult truth, a challenging relationship, or a circumstance that feels unfair? Whatever it is, consider what might happen if you chose to accept it fully, without judgment or resistance. This doesn't mean you have to like it, but acceptance allows you to move forward with clarity and purpose, rather than being stuck in a cycle of frustration. The Stoics believed that acceptance is not a sign of weakness, but a source of strength. When we stop fighting against reality, we free ourselves to focus on what truly matters: our own actions, values, and growth. So, as you go through your day, ask yourself, what can I accept today that I've been resisting? The answer might just be the key to a more peaceful mind. Envy robs you of joy. It's a quiet thief, sneaking into your thoughts and stealing the contentment you could feel for your own life. The Stoics understood this deeply, teaching that envy is not just a distraction, it's a barrier to inner peace. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." These words remind us that true wisdom lies in focusing on what we already possess, rather than longing for what others have. Gratitude is the antidote to envy. When you take the time to appreciate your own blessings, no matter how small they may seem, you shift your perspective. Instead of feeling diminished by someone else's success, you can celebrate it. Imagine a friend lands a dream job or achieves a personal milestone. Instead of letting envy creep in, you can choose to feel genuine happiness for them. This doesn't mean ignoring your own aspirations. It simply means recognizing that another person's success doesn't take anything away from you. In fact, their achievement can inspire you to strive for your own goals with renewed energy. Think about this. When was the last time you felt envious of someone? Maybe it was a colleague's promotion, a friend's new car, or even a stranger's social media highlight reel. Now, consider how that envy made you feel. Did it motivate you, or did it leave you feeling smaller? The Stoics would argue that envy only serves to pull you away from your own path. By practicing gratitude, you reclaim your focus and redirect it toward what truly matters. Your own growth, your own journey. Take a moment to reflect on your own tendencies. Do you find yourself comparing your life to others? If so, what would it feel like to replace that comparison with celebration? To genuinely rejoice in the good fortune of others, knowing that their success doesn't diminish your own potential. This shift in mindset is not just Stoic wisdom, it's a practical tool for building a more peaceful, contented life. When you let go of envy, you make room for joy, for gratitude, and for the quiet satisfaction that comes from living in alignment with your values. What would you do if you weren't afraid? It's a question that can stop us in our tracks, forcing us to confront the barriers we place on ourselves. Stoicism teaches us that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to act in spite of it. Seneca once said, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." Think about that for a moment. Living, especially when faced with adversity, uncertainty, or pain, requires a kind of quiet bravery that often goes unnoticed. But courage doesn't always have to be grand or dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as standing up for what's right, even when it's uncomfortable or unpopular. Imagine being in a situation where you witness someone being treated unfairly. Speaking up in that moment, even if your voice shakes, is an act of courage. It's not about erasing fear, it's about refusing to let fear dictate your actions. Stoics believe that fear is a natural response, but it doesn't have to control us. Instead, we can use it as a signal to act with integrity, to align our actions with our values, no matter how daunting the circumstances. So, where in your life can you practice courage? Is it in having a difficult conversation you've been avoiding? Maybe it's taking a step toward a goal that feels out of reach because the possibility of failure feels overwhelming. Or perhaps it's simply choosing to face each day with determination, even when life feels heavy. Courage isn't about being fearless, it's about embracing fear and moving forward anyway. Take a moment to reflect on one area where you can act with courage today. What small step can you take to align your actions with your deepest values? Remember, even the smallest act of bravery can ripple into something extraordinary. Solitude is a gateway to self-discovery, a space where the noise of the world fades and the whispers of your own thoughts grow clearer. In a world that often glorifies constant connection and busyness, the Stoics remind us of the profound value in stepping back, in retreating inward to find clarity and peace. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." These words, penned by one of history's greatest Stoic thinkers, highlight the power of solitude as a refuge, a place where we can confront our fears, examine our values, and align ourselves with what truly matters. But solitude isn't just about being physically alone, it's about creating a mental sanctuary. Think about the last time you took a walk by yourself, sat quietly with a cup of tea, or simply stared out a window without distractions. In those moments, you might have noticed thoughts surfacing that you hadn't fully acknowledged before. Maybe you gained a new perspective on a problem, or felt a quiet sense of gratitude for something you'd overlooked. That's the magic of solitude. It allows us to reconnect with ourselves, free from the influence of others. The Stoics believed that solitude was essential for self-mastery. It's in these quiet moments that we can practice self-awareness, observe our emotions without judgment, and cultivate inner strength. For example, imagine a challenging situation you're facing. By stepping into solitude, you give yourself the space to reflect on your response rather than reacting impulsively. You can ask yourself, what would a wise and virtuous person do in this situation? How can I approach this with calm and clarity? This kind of reflection isn't just helpful, it's transformative. To make solitude a regular part of your life, start small. Set aside just 10 or 15 minutes each day to be alone with your thoughts. It could be early in the morning before the day begins, or in the evening as a way to unwind. Use this time to journal, meditate, or simply sit in stillness. Over time, you'll find that these moments of solitude become a source of strength, helping you navigate life's challenges with greater ease and resilience. Solitude isn't about isolation, it's about reconnection. Reconnection with your inner self, your values, and the quiet wisdom that resides within you. So, take a step back from the noise, even if just for a few minutes, and discover the peace that comes from embracing solitude. What are you overly attached to? It's a question worth sitting with for a moment. In a world that constantly pushes us to accumulate more things, more achievements, more recognition, Stoicism offers a refreshing perspective. True freedom comes from detachment. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." This simple yet profound idea challenges us to rethink what we truly value. Detachment doesn't mean abandoning everything you care about. Instead, it's about loosening the grip of external things on your happiness and peace of mind. Think about it. How often do we tie our sense of worth to material possessions or specific outcomes? Maybe it's the car you've been saving for, the promotion you're chasing, or even the approval of others. These things aren't inherently bad, but when we become too attached, we give them power over our emotions. Consider this example. Imagine you've worked tirelessly on a project, pouring your heart and soul into it, only to have it fall short of your expectations. If you're overly attached to the outcome, the disappointment can feel crushing. But if you've practiced detachment, you can acknowledge the effort you put in, learn from the experience, and move forward without being weighed down by frustration. This is the kind of freedom Stoicism encourages, a freedom that comes from within, not from external validation or possessions. So, take a moment to reflect. What are the things, outcomes, or even relationships you're holding onto too tightly? What would it feel like to loosen that grip, even just a little? Detachment isn't about loss. It's about creating space for peace, resilience, and a deeper connection to what truly matters. It's a practice, not a one-time decision, but each small step can lead to a more peaceful and balanced mind. Emotional resilience is a skill you can develop, and Stoicism offers some of the most powerful tools to help you master it. At its core, Stoic philosophy teaches us that our emotions are not dictated by external events, but by how we interpret and respond to those events. Seneca once said, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." This insight reminds us that much of our emotional turmoil comes from our own perceptions and fears, not the actual circumstances we face. Think about a time when you felt overwhelmed by a situation, maybe a stressful work deadline or a difficult conversation with someone. In that moment, it's easy to let emotions like anxiety or frustration take over. But what if you paused and asked yourself, is this feeling truly justified, or am I amplifying the problem in my mind? Stoicism encourages us to step back, examine our emotions with reason, and choose how to respond rather than react impulsively. For example, imagine you're stuck in traffic, running late for an important meeting. Your first instinct might be to feel angry or panicked, but instead of letting those emotions control you, you could remind yourself that the traffic is outside your control. What you can control is how you handle the situation. Maybe you use the extra time to prepare for the meeting mentally or listen to something inspiring. By shifting your focus, you transform what could have been a stressful experience into an opportunity for calm and clarity. So, here's a challenge for you. Identify one emotion you've struggled with recently, whether it's anxiety, anger, or even self-doubt. The next time it arises, take a moment to pause and ask yourself, is this emotion serving me, or is it distorting my perspective? By practicing this simple exercise, you'll begin to build the emotional resilience that Stoics like Seneca championed. It's not about suppressing your feelings but understanding them, so you can respond with wisdom and strength. How often do you truly notice the moments as they unfold in your day? Stoicism teaches us that mindfulness isn't just a practice, it's a way of life, a way to anchor ourselves in the present moment. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Confine yourself to the present," a powerful reminder that peace and clarity come from focusing on what's happening right now, not the distractions of the past or the uncertainties of the future. Think about something as simple as washing your hands. Most of the time, we do it automatically, barely noticing the sensation of the water, the sound of it running, or the way our hands move. But what if, just for a moment, you paused and truly experienced it? Feel the temperature of the water, notice the texture of the soap, and observe the way your hands glide together. This is mindfulness in action, a small act of presence that can bring a sense of calm and grounding, even in the busiest of days. Mindfulness doesn't require grand gestures or hours of meditation. It's about finding those pockets of awareness in your everyday routines. Try this. The next time you're drinking a cup of tea or coffee, slow down. Notice the warmth of the cup in your hands, the aroma rising from it, the way the liquid feels as you take that first sip. By doing this, you're not just drinking, you're practicing presence, and in that presence, you'll find a deeper connection to the moment. What's beautiful about Stoic mindfulness is that it's practical. It's not about escaping life, it's about fully engaging with it. So, take a moment today to pause, to breathe, and to truly inhabit the present. When you do, you'll find that even the simplest tasks can become opportunities for peace and reflection. Perfectionism is the enemy of progress. It's a truth that Stoic philosophy has long recognized, teaching us that the pursuit of flawlessness often leads to paralysis rather than growth. The Stoics understood that life is inherently imperfect, and trying to control every detail or outcome only sets us up for frustration. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic thinkers, once said, "No great thing is created suddenly." This simple yet profound statement reminds us that progress is a process, not a destination. It's built on small steps, mistakes, and the willingness to keep moving forward, even when things don't go as planned. Consider this: when we hold ourselves to impossible standards, we become so afraid of failure that we avoid taking risks altogether. But Stoicism teaches us to reframe failure as a teacher, not a foe. Think of a time when something didn't go the way you hoped. Maybe you didn't ace a project at work, or perhaps a personal goal fell short. Instead of dwelling on what went wrong, Stoicism encourages us to ask, what can I learn from this? Every misstep is an opportunity to grow stronger and wiser, to build resilience in the face of life's unpredictability. Take a moment to reflect on your own relationship with perfectionism. Do you find yourself hesitating to start something because you're afraid it won't be perfect? Or do you beat yourself up over small mistakes, believing they define your worth? Stoicism invites us to let go of these self-imposed pressures. It reminds us that imperfection is not a flaw, it's a natural part of being human. By embracing this truth, we free ourselves to take action, to experiment, and to live more fully. After all, a life spent chasing perfection is a life half lived. Instead, focus on progress, no matter how small, and trust that each step forward is enough. How often do you pause to ask yourself, how can I give more today? Generosity isn't just about material gifts, it's a mindset, a way of living that aligns deeply with Stoic principles. The Stoics believed that true fulfillment comes not from what we accumulate, but from what we give. Seneca once said, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for a kindness." This simple yet profound idea reminds us that every interaction, no matter how small, holds the potential for generosity. Think about the last time someone showed you unexpected kindness. Maybe it was a stranger holding the door open, or a friend sending a thoughtful message when you needed it most. Those moments stick with us because they remind us of our shared humanity. Now, imagine being the one who creates those moments for others. Giving without expecting anything in return isn't just about making someone else's day better. It's about cultivating a sense of inner peace and connection. Here's a challenge for you. Identify one way you can practice generosity today. It doesn't have to be grand or costly. It could be as simple as offering your full attention to someone in conversation, or taking a few minutes to help a colleague with a task. The act itself matters less than the intention behind it. When you give freely, you're not just helping others. You're reinforcing the Stoic idea that our purpose lies in contributing to something greater than ourselves. So, what's one small act of kindness you can commit to today? Start there and see how it transforms not just someone else's day, but your own sense of fulfillment. Self-awareness is the foundation of growth. Without truly understanding who we are, our strengths, our weaknesses, our triggers, and our motivations, we cannot hope to improve or find lasting peace. The Stoics placed immense value on this inward focus, teaching that self-awareness is the first step toward mastering our emotions and cultivating resilience. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Look well into thyself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if thou wilt always look." This timeless wisdom reminds us that the answers we seek often lie within, waiting to be uncovered through honest reflection. Consider this. How often do we pause to examine our actions or question our reactions? For instance, imagine a day when something small, like a rude comment or a missed deadline, throws you into frustration. Instead of letting that frustration dictate your mood, what if you took a moment to ask yourself why it affected you so deeply? Was it the comment itself, or perhaps an underlying insecurity it triggered? By reflecting on these moments, we begin to see patterns in our behavior patterns that, once understood, can be reshaped. One powerful way to build this self-awareness is through journaling. The Stoics were avid journalers, using their writings as a mirror to examine their thoughts and actions. You can do the same. At the end of each day, take a few minutes to write down your experiences, your reactions, and the emotions you felt. Over time, this practice will help you spot recurring themes and gain clarity about what truly drives you. It's not about judgment or criticism, it's about understanding. And with understanding comes the power to change. So, as you move through your day, remember to look inward. Notice your thoughts, your reactions, and the choices you make. Each moment of self-awareness is a step toward greater clarity and strength. And as Marcus Aurelius reminds us, that strength is always within reach, if only we take the time to look. How balanced are your emotions when life throws you off course? It's easy to feel overwhelmed when things don't go as planned, but Stoicism teaches us that true strength lies in maintaining equanimity, a steady, unshakable calm no matter what's happening around us. As Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This simple yet profound idea reminds us that while we can't control external events, we always have control over our responses. Think about a time when you faced a crisis. Maybe it was a sudden job loss, a heated argument, or even a minor inconvenience like spilling coffee on your favorite shirt. In those moments, your reaction likely shaped the outcome more than the event itself. Stoics believed that by practicing equanimity, we can navigate life's ups and downs with grace and clarity. It's not about suppressing emotions, but rather about observing them without letting them take the wheel. Imagine a stormy sea. The waves crash violently, but beneath the surface, the water remains calm and still. That's the essence of equanimity, finding that inner stillness even when the world around you feels chaotic. So, how do we cultivate this? Start by pausing before reacting. Take a deep breath, step back, and ask yourself, is this worth my energy? How can I respond in a way that aligns with my values? Take a moment to reflect. How often do you let external events dictate your emotional state? What would it feel like to approach challenges with a sense of calm assurance instead of frustration or panic? Practicing equanimity doesn't mean you'll never feel anger or sadness. It means you'll handle those feelings with intention rather than letting them control you. By embracing this mindset, you'll find that even the most turbulent situations become opportunities for growth and resilience. Comparison steals your joy. It's a bold truth, but one that Stoicism has long understood. When we constantly measure ourselves against others, we lose sight of our own path, our own progress, and ultimately our own peace of mind. The Stoics taught us that the only true measure of success is how well we live in alignment with our values, not how we stack up against someone else's achievements or possessions. Seneca once said, "Comparison is the thief of joy," and those words ring as true today as they did centuries ago. Why? Because when we compare, we're often measuring our behind-the-scenes struggles against someone else's highlight reel. And that's a recipe for discontent. Think about it this way: every person's journey is unique. Your strengths, your challenges, your pace, they're all yours alone. When you focus on your own progress, no matter how small, you cultivate gratitude and resilience. Imagine celebrating the fact that you've read one more book this month than last, or that you've taken a step toward a goal you've been putting off. That's where real growth happens, not in measuring yourself against someone else's yardstick, but in recognizing your own strides. Take a moment to reflect. Where in your life are you comparing yourself to others? Is it in your career, your relationships, or even your personal growth? What would it feel like to let go of that comparison and focus instead on your own path? The Stoics remind us that our power lies in our ability to choose where we direct our attention. And when we choose to focus on our own journey, we reclaim our joy, our peace, and our sense of purpose. So, the next time you catch yourself slipping into comparison, pause. Remind yourself of Seneca's wisdom and ask, what's one thing I can celebrate about my own progress today? What challenge are you grateful for today? It's a question that might feel counterintuitive at first, but when we pause to reflect, we often find that the toughest moments in life are the ones that shape us the most. Stoicism teaches us that adversity isn't something to avoid or resent. It's an opportunity to grow, to strengthen our character, and to uncover hidden strengths we never knew we had. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it simply, the obstacle is the way. In other words, the challenges we face aren't barriers to our progress, they are the path forward. Think about a time when you overcame something difficult. Maybe it was a setback at work, a personal loss, or a moment when everything seemed to go wrong. At the time, it might have felt overwhelming, but looking back, can you see how it pushed you to adapt, to learn, or to become more resilient? That's the Stoic perspective in action. Challenges aren't just hurdles to endure, they're lessons wrapped in difficulty, waiting to teach us something valuable. For example, imagine someone who loses their job unexpectedly. In the moment, it feels like a crushing blow, but over time, they might realize it pushed them to pursue a passion they'd been ignoring or to develop skills they never would have explored otherwise. The challenge, as painful as it was, became a catalyst for growth. That's the kind of gratitude Stoics encourage us to cultivate, not for the pain itself, but for the strength and wisdom it helps us build. So, take a moment to think about a challenge in your own life. What has it taught you? How has it shaped the person you are today? By reframing our struggles as opportunities, we can find peace even in the midst of difficulty. Gratitude for challenges doesn't mean denying their difficulty. It means recognizing their power to transform us, and that's a mindset worth embracing. Inner strength is built through practice. It's not something you're born with, it's something you develop over time, like a muscle that grows stronger with consistent effort. The Stoics believed that resilience and fortitude are the cornerstones of a peaceful mind, and they taught that true freedom comes from mastering your own thoughts and emotions. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." This simple yet profound idea reminds us that our greatest battles are often fought within, and the key to winning them lies in self-discipline and self-awareness. Think about a time when you faced a challenge that seemed insurmountable. Maybe it was a personal loss, a professional setback, or a moment when you felt completely overwhelmed. What got you through it? Chances are it wasn't just luck or external help. It was your inner strength, your ability to keep going even when everything felt uncertain. The Stoics would call this endurance, the quiet power to endure life's hardships without losing your sense of purpose or peace. But how do you build this kind of strength? It starts with small, intentional choices. Every time you choose to respond calmly instead of reacting impulsively, every time you face discomfort without running from it, you're strengthening your inner resolve. It's not about ignoring pain or pretending everything is fine. It's about acknowledging the difficulty while refusing to let it define you. Take a moment to reflect on your own journey. What challenges have shaped you? How have they helped you grow? The Stoics believed that every obstacle is an opportunity to practice virtue, to become more resilient, and to deepen your understanding of yourself. So, as you go forward, remember, your inner strength is already within you. It just takes practice to bring it to the surface. How present are you in your relationships? It's a question worth asking, especially in a world where distractions often pull us away from the people right in front of us. Stoicism teaches us that true connection begins with presence, being fully engaged, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. As Seneca once said, associate with people who are likely to improve you. This isn't just about choosing the right company, it's about how you show up in those relationships. Are you truly listening? Are you giving others your undivided attention, or are you mentally elsewhere, scrolling through thoughts or distractions? Think about a time when someone gave you their full attention. How did it feel? Chances are it made you feel valued, understood, and connected. Now, flip the script. What if you could offer that same level of presence to the people in your life? Imagine having a conversation where you're not just waiting for your turn to speak, but actually absorbing their words, their tone, their emotions. This is where Stoic principles come into play, teaching us to focus on what's within our control, like how we engage with others, rather than being swept away by external distractions. Here's a simple example. Picture sitting down with a friend over coffee. Instead of checking your phone or letting your mind wander, you choose to be fully there. You notice the way they light up when they talk about their passions. You ask thoughtful questions. You listen, not just to respond, but to understand. This small act of presence can deepen your connection in ways that words alone can't. So, take a moment to reflect. How can you bring more presence into your relationships today? It doesn't have to be grand gestures sometimes. It's as simple as putting your phone away during a conversation or making eye contact when someone speaks. These small shifts can create ripples of trust and understanding, strengthening the bonds that matter most. Resentment poisons the soul. It's a weight we carry, not because of what others have done, but because we refuse to let go. Stoicism teaches us that holding on to grudges only harms us in the long run, trapping us in a cycle of bitterness and pain. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In other words, rising above the hurt, choosing to respond with grace and understanding, is far more powerful than clinging to anger. Think about a time when someone wronged you, a betrayal, a harsh word, or an unfair action. It's natural to feel hurt, but Stoicism reminds us that we have a choice in how we respond. Imagine forgiving that person, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing their behavior. It means freeing yourself from the emotional chains of resentment. Take a moment to reflect. Is there someone in your life you've been holding a grudge against? What would it feel like to release that resentment, even just a little? Stoicism isn't about denying your emotions. It's about acknowledging them and then choosing a path that aligns with your values and inner peace. Letting go of resentment isn't easy, but it's one of the most liberating choices you can make. Start small, identify one grudge you're ready to release, and take the first step toward a lighter, more peaceful mind. How true are you to yourself? It's a question worth pausing for, especially in a world that often pushes us to conform, to fit into molds that don't align with who we truly are. Stoicism teaches us the importance of living authentically, of aligning our actions with our deepest values no matter the external pressures. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." These words remind us that authenticity starts with clarity. Before we can act with integrity, we must first understand who we are and what we stand for. Think about it. How often do we compromise our values to avoid conflict, to please others, or to chase fleeting approval? Stoicism challenges us to rise above this. It calls us to live with purpose, to define our principles and then live by them unwaveringly. This doesn't mean life becomes easy. Far from it. Living authentically often requires courage, especially when it means going against the grain or standing alone. But the reward is a profound sense of peace, knowing that our choices reflect our true selves. Consider a moment when you had to make a difficult decision. Did you choose the path of least resistance, or did you stay true to what you believed was right? Authenticity isn't about perfection. It's about striving to align your actions with your values, even when it's hard. For example, imagine someone who values honesty above all else. They might face a situation where telling the truth could cost them a job or strain a relationship. Yet, by choosing honesty, they reaffirm their commitment to their principles, strengthening their integrity and self-respect. So, take a moment to reflect. Where in your life are you being true to yourself, and where might you be compromising? Authenticity is a practice, not a destination. It's about small, consistent choices that add up to a life lived with meaning and purpose. What's one step you can take today to live more authentically? Start by asking yourself what truly matters to you, and then, as Epictetus reminds us, do what you have to do. A resilient mindset is your greatest asset. It's the armor you wear against life's inevitable challenges, the foundation that allows you to stand tall even when the world feels like it's crumbling around you. The Stoics understood this deeply. They believed that mental toughness wasn't something you were born with, it was something you cultivated day by day through deliberate practice and unwavering discipline. As Seneca once said, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Think about that for a moment. Just as lifting weights builds physical strength, facing hardships builds mental resilience. It's not about avoiding pain or failure. It's about learning to endure, adapt, and grow stronger because of them. Take the example of someone who experiences a major setback, a lost job, a failed project, or even a personal rejection. In the moment, it feels devastating, But what if, instead of letting that failure define them, they chose to see it as an opportunity? What if they asked themselves, what can I learn from this? How can I use this experience to become better, wiser, and more prepared for what's next? That's the Stoic approach. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about shifting your perspective to see challenges as stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. Now, think about your own life. When was the last time you faced a difficult situation? Did you let it break you, or did you find a way to rise above it? Resilience isn't about never falling, it's about how quickly and how gracefully you get back up. It's about recognizing that every setback is a chance to prove to yourself just how strong you really are. So, the next time life throws you a curveball, remember, you've got the tools to handle it. You just have to choose to use them. Who has made a difference in your life? Take a moment to think about it. Is it a family member, a friend, or maybe even a stranger who showed you kindness when you needed it most? Stoicism teaches us that gratitude isn't just a feeling. It's a practice, a way of seeing the world and the people in it. Marcus Aurelius once said, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This isn't just about appreciating life in the abstract. It's about recognizing the people who make that life meaningful. Think about the small acts of kindness you've received. Maybe it was a teacher who believed in you when you doubted yourself, a coworker who offered support during a tough project, or a friend who listened when you needed to vent. These moments may seem ordinary, but they're anything but. They're the threads that weave the fabric of our lives, and practicing gratitude for them helps us see the beauty in the everyday. Here's an idea. Pick one person who has impacted you and express your gratitude to them. It doesn't have to be a grand gesture. It could be a simple text, a handwritten note, or even a heartfelt conversation. When we take the time to acknowledge the good others bring into our lives, we not only strengthen our relationships but also deepen our own sense of connection and purpose. Gratitude in the Stoic sense is more than saying thank you. It's about cultivating an awareness of how interconnected we all are and how much we rely on one another. So, as you go about your day, consider this: who has made your life better, and how can you let them know? It's a small act, but one that can ripple outward, creating more kindness and understanding in the world. Worry is a misuse of imagination. Think about that for a moment. The Stoics understood that so much of what we fear or fret over isn't rooted in reality. It's a product of our own minds spinning stories about what might happen. And while it's natural to feel concern, especially in uncertain times, worry often pulls us away from the present moment and into a maze of imagined troubles. As Epictetus once said, man is not worried by real problems so much as by his imagined anxieties about real problems. In other words, the weight of our worries often comes not from the situation itself, but from how we choose to perceive it. Consider this. Imagine you're preparing for an important presentation. You've done the work, practiced your delivery, and you're as ready as you can be. But instead of focusing on the steps within your control, your mind races with thoughts like, what if I forget my words? What if the audience doesn't like me? What if I fail? These what-ifs aren't real problems, they're possibilities, stories your mind is creating. And the more you fixate on them, the more power you give them. The Stoic approach: recognize what's within your control, your preparation, your effort, your mindset, and let go of the rest. Here's a simple practice to try. The next time you catch yourself worrying, pause and ask, is this something I can control? If the answer is no, remind yourself that dwelling on it won't change the outcome. If the answer is yes, focus on taking action instead of ruminating. This shift can be incredibly liberating. Now, take a moment to reflect. What's one thing you've been worrying about lately? Is it truly within your control, or is it a product of your imagination? By distinguishing between the two, you can begin to release unnecessary worry and reclaim your peace of mind. How kind are you to yourself? It's a question we often overlook, yet it's one of the most important we can ask. Stoicism teaches us that self-compassion isn't a sign of weakness. It's a foundation of inner strength. As Seneca once said, "Be kind to yourself, for you are your own longest companion." Think about that for a moment. You're the one person you'll spend every moment of your life with, so why not treat yourself with the same understanding and care you'd offer a close friend? When things go wrong, it's easy to fall into the trap of harsh self-criticism. Maybe you made a mistake at work, said something you regret, or missed a goal you'd set for yourself. In those moments, the Stoic approach isn't to berate yourself, but to reflect with patience and clarity. Imagine this: after a tough day, instead of replaying your errors on a loop, you pause and ask, "What can I learn from this? How can I grow?" That shift from judgment to curiosity is the essence of self-compassion. Take a moment to think about your own self-talk. Are you quick to forgive yourself, or do you hold on to every misstep as proof of your shortcomings? Stoicism reminds us that we're human, imperfect, evolving, and always capable of improvement. By treating ourselves with kindness, we create the mental space to move forward with resilience and purpose. So, the next time you stumble, remember Seneca's wisdom: be your own ally, not your critic. Purpose gives life meaning. It's the compass that guides our decisions, shapes our actions, and helps us navigate through challenges with clarity. In Stoic philosophy, living a life of purpose isn't about chasing external validation or fleeting desires. It's about aligning your actions with your deepest values. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "What is not good for the swarm is not good for the bee." This simple yet profound statement reminds us that our individual purpose is intertwined with the greater good. Just as a bee thrives when it contributes to the hive, we flourish when our actions serve something larger than ourselves. Living with intention means making choices that reflect what truly matters to you. It's about asking yourself, does this align with who I am and what I stand for? For instance, imagine someone who values honesty above all else. Every decision they make, from how they speak to others to how they conduct business, is rooted in that principle. Their sense of purpose isn't just a lofty ideal, it's a daily practice, a series of small, intentional acts that build a life of integrity. Stoicism teaches us that purpose isn't something we stumble upon by chance. It's something we cultivate through deliberate action. It's about taking responsibility for our choices and ensuring they reflect our core beliefs. So, take a moment to reflect. What are your guiding values? How can your daily actions bring you closer to living a life of purpose? When you align your actions with your values, you'll find not just meaning, but a deep sense of fulfillment that transcends the ups and downs of life. What are you grateful for right now? It's a simple question, but one that can shift your entire perspective if you take a moment to truly answer it. The Stoics believed deeply in the power of gratitude, not as a fleeting emotion, but as a practice that roots us firmly in the present moment. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." This is a reminder to focus not on what's missing, but on what's already here, what's already yours. Gratitude in Stoicism isn't about ignoring life's challenges or pretending everything is perfect. It's about recognizing the value in what you have, even when circumstances are tough. Think about it. No matter how difficult today feels, there's always something to appreciate. Maybe it's the warmth of the sun on your skin, the sound of laughter, or even the quiet stillness of an early morning. These small, often overlooked moments are where gratitude thrives. Here's an example to bring this idea to life. Imagine you're stuck in traffic, late for an important meeting. It's easy to feel frustrated, to focus on the delay and the stress. But what if instead you chose to appreciate the fact that you have a car to drive, a job to go to, and a destination to reach? Or maybe you use that time to listen to a podcast you enjoy or simply reflect on your day. Suddenly, the inconvenience becomes an opportunity, a chance to practice gratitude and find joy in the now. So, let's take this moment to pause and reflect. What are 3 things you're grateful for today? They don't have to be grand or life-changing. Maybe it's the cup of coffee you sipped this morning, a text from a friend, or the fact that you're alive to experience this very moment. Gratitude, when practiced daily, has a way of transforming ordinary moments into extraordinary ones. It's not about waiting for life to be perfect. It's about finding the perfection in life as it is. And that, my friends, is a Stoic practice worth embracing. Trying to control everything only brings stress, a truth that feels counterintuitive in a world that constantly pushes us to take charge. But Stoicism offers a different path, one that teaches us the freedom of surrender. The ancient Stoics reminded us that much of life is beyond our control, and clinging to the illusion of control only leads to frustration and anxiety. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Think about that for a moment. How often do we exhaust ourselves worrying about outcomes we can't influence, imagining worst-case scenarios that may never come to pass? Consider a relationship, for example. You might find yourself trying to control how someone else feels or acts, bending over backward to make them happy or trying to force a connection. But the truth is, you can't control another person's emotions or decisions, no matter how much you care. What you can control is how you respond, how you show up, and how you choose to engage with the situation. Letting go of the need to control others doesn't mean giving up on the relationship. It means focusing on your own actions and mindset, which are the only things truly within your power. So, what do you need to let go of? Is it the need to micromanage every detail at work, or the desire to change someone else's behavior? Maybe it's the fear of what others think of you, or the constant worry about the future. Whatever it is, the act of releasing control can be incredibly liberating. It's not about indifference, it's about directing your energy toward what you can influence, rather than wasting it on what you can't. This shift in perspective doesn't just reduce stress, it opens the door to a more peaceful and resilient way of living. How have you grown this year? It's a question worth sitting with, not just as a passing thought, but as a moment of real reflection. In Stoicism, growth isn't just about achieving goals or reaching milestones. It's about the quiet, often unseen progress we make in how we think, act, and respond to life. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." What this means is that our inner world, the way we choose to see and interpret our experiences, shapes who we become. Every challenge, every mistake, every moment of discomfort is an opportunity to grow, but only if we approach it with the right mindset. Think about a time when you made a mistake, something that felt like a failure in the moment. Maybe it was a missed opportunity at work, a moment of frustration with someone you care about, or even a decision that didn't turn out as planned. At first, it might have felt like a setback, but looking back, what did you learn from it? Stoicism teaches us to value these moments not for the pain they bring, but for the lessons they offer. Each misstep is a chance to refine our character, to become more patient, more resilient, more understanding. Take a moment to reflect on your own journey. What have you learned about yourself this year? Maybe you've discovered a new strength you didn't know you had, or perhaps you've found a way to approach challenges with more calm and clarity. Growth doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's the small shifts in how we think and act that make the biggest difference. Gratitude plays a key role here. When we practice gratitude for our growth, even in the face of difficulty, we're not just acknowledging how far we've come, we're reinforcing the mindset that allows us to keep moving forward. So, as you think about your year, what would you thank yourself for? What lessons have you carried with you, and how have they shaped the person you are today? By practicing gratitude for your growth, you're not just celebrating your progress. You're setting the stage for even greater transformation in the future. Your legacy is built through your actions, not through words, not through intentions, but through the way you choose to live each day. This is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, which teaches us that a life of virtue is the foundation of a meaningful existence. As Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." It's a simple yet profound reminder: your inner values must align with your outward behavior. Virtue isn't just about thinking the right thoughts. It's about embodying them in every decision, every interaction, and every moment. Think about the legacy you want to leave behind. Is it one of kindness, resilience, and integrity? Or is it something less intentional, shaped by neglect or indifference? The Stoics believed that every action, no matter how small, contributes to the person you become and the mark you leave on the world. To live virtuously is to live in a way that inspires others, not through grand gestures, but through consistency and authenticity. Consider Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most famous Stoics. He didn't just write about virtue, he lived it. As a Roman emperor, he faced immense challenges, yet he ruled with wisdom, fairness, and compassion, leaving a legacy that still resonates thousands of years later. His life reminds us that virtue isn't about perfection, it's about striving to do the right thing even when it's difficult. So, what kind of legacy are you building? Take a moment to reflect on the values you hold dear and how they show up in your daily life. Are you nurturing relationships with kindness? Are you facing challenges with courage? Are you contributing to your community in meaningful ways? These are the questions that can guide you toward a life of purpose, one that not only enriches your own existence but also leaves a positive impact on those around you. The beauty of Stoicism is that it empowers you to take control of your legacy, starting right now. You don't need wealth, fame, or power to live a virtuous life. All you need is the willingness to act with integrity, to treat others with respect, and to face life's ups and downs with grace. These are the building blocks of a legacy that endures, one that reflects who you truly are and inspires others to follow in your footsteps. What makes life worth living for you? Is it the big milestones, the achievements, the celebrations, the moments of triumph? Or is it the small, quiet joys that often go unnoticed? Stoicism teaches us that life itself is a gift, and gratitude is the key to unlocking its true value. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once said, "Life is long if you know how to use it." This isn't about the number of years we live, but how deeply we live those years. It's about finding meaning in the everyday, in the ordinary moments that make up the fabric of our existence. Think about the warmth of the sun on your face during a morning walk, the laughter shared with a friend over coffee, or even the satisfaction of completing a simple task. These moments, though fleeting, are where life's richness lies. Stoicism encourages us to pause and appreciate them, not just for what they are, but for the fact that we are here to experience them at all. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we lack to what we already have, and in doing so, it transforms our perspective. Take a moment to reflect. What are you grateful for in your life right now? It could be something as profound as the love of family or as simple as a good meal. When we practice gratitude, we train our minds to see life not as a series of problems to solve, but as a series of gifts to cherish. This shift doesn't erase challenges, but it gives us the strength to face them with a sense of abundance rather than scarcity. Seneca reminds us that life is long enough, if we use it wisely. By practicing gratitude, we stretch the moments of joy and make the most of the time we have. So, as you go about your day, try to notice the small things. Let them remind you of the beauty and brevity of life, and let that awareness guide you toward a more peaceful, contented mind. As we come to the end of this journey through Stoic affirmations, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've explored. These powerful phrases aren't just words, they're tools for reshaping your mindset, helping you cultivate a sense of calm and clarity even in the face of life's challenges. By practicing gratitude, building resilience, and staying present, you're not just surviving life's ups and downs, you're thriving through them. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." It's a profound reminder that our inner world shapes our outer reality. When you fill your mind with affirmations rooted in Stoic wisdom, you're not just thinking differently, you're living differently. You're choosing to focus on what you can control, letting go of what you can't, and finding peace in the process. Now, it's your turn to take this wisdom and make it your own. Start small. Pick 1 or 2 affirmations that resonate with you and repeat them daily. Let them guide your thoughts and actions, and watch how they transform your mindset over time. Before we close, I'd love to hear from you. What's your favorite Stoic affirmation? Drop it in the comments below. I'm excited to see which ones resonate most with you. And if you found value in this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join this community of Stoic learners. Together, we can continue to grow, learn, and find peace in the wisdom of the ancients. Thank you for watching, and remember, the power to create a peaceful mind is always within you. See